Maya woke up that Tuesday morning to the same sound she'd heard for the past 8 years. The old radiator in the corner of the room hissed and clanked, fighting against the November cold that seeped through the windows of St. Catherine's group home. She looked around the room she shared with 3 other girls. Everyone was still asleep. It was 6:15 in the morning, and she had exactly 45 minutes before the school bus would arrive at the corner. She got dressed quietly, pulling on her worn jeans and the thick sweater Mrs. Rodriguez had given her last winter. It had a small hole near the bottom, but it was warm, and that's what mattered. Maya had learned not to complain about things like that. When you've been in the system since you were 7 years old, you learn to be grateful for what you have. The house was quiet as she made her way down the stairs. A few of the younger kids were starting to wake up, and she could hear Mrs. Rodriguez in the kitchen, probably making breakfast for everyone. Maya grabbed her backpack from the hook by the door. Inside was her math homework, a library book that was almost due, and half a sandwich she'd saved from dinner the night before. Lunch money was tight this week. She stepped outside into the cold morning air. Her breath came out in little clouds, and she pulled her jacket tighter around herself. The walk to the bus stop was about 10 minutes, and she always took the same route through the alley behind the building. It was faster than going around the block, and it meant she could sleep an extra 5 minutes. The alley was the kind of place most people avoided. Dumpsters lined one side, and the brick walls on either side were covered in old graffiti. But Maya had walked this way hundreds of times. She knew every crack in the pavement, every pothole filled with yesterday's rain. It was just part of her daily routine, nothing special, nothing different. Until that morning. She was about halfway through the alley when she heard it. At first it was so faint that she thought she might be imagining it. A soft sound, almost like a cat crying. Maya stopped walking and listened. There it was again, a little louder this time. It was coming from somewhere near the dumpsters. Her first thought was that it must be a kitten. Maybe someone had abandoned a litter of them, which happened sometimes in this neighborhood. She'd found a stray cat once when she was younger, and Mrs. Rodriguez had let her keep it at the group home for a few weeks until they found it a proper home. Maya loved animals. They didn't judge you or ask uncomfortable questions about why you didn't have parents. She walked toward the sound, her sneakers crunching on the loose gravel. The crying got louder, but as she got closer to the large green dumpster, something made her stomach tighten with worry. That didn't sound like a cat. It sounded different. It sounded like something she couldn't quite place, but that made her heart beat faster. Maya looked around the alley. It was empty. No one else was around. The sun was just starting to come up, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, but the alley was still mostly dark. She pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight. Her hands were shaking a little, though she didn't know why. The dumpster was tall, maybe 6 feet high. There was a wooden crate nearby that the garbage collectors probably used, so Maya dragged it over and climbed up on it. She had to stand on her tiptoes to see inside, and what she saw made her freeze completely. At first her brain couldn't process it. There was a pile of black garbage bags, some cardboard boxes, and what looked like old furniture. But there, in the corner of the dumpster, partially hidden behind a bag, was a bundle wrapped in what looked like a dirty blanket. And it was moving. The crying got louder, more desperate. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. She climbed up higher, gripping the edge of the dumpster, and leaned in to get a better look. When she pulled back the edge of the blanket with trembling fingers, she saw a tiny face, red and wrinkled and crying. A baby. There was a real baby in the trash. For a second, Maya couldn't move. Her mind was racing. How did a baby get here? Who would do this? How long had it been here? The baby's cries were getting weaker, and that scared her more than anything. She'd watched enough TV to know that wasn't a good sign. Without thinking about whether it was safe or smart, Maya climbed into the dumpster. It was disgusting. Her feet sank into something soft and wet, and the smell was horrible. But none of that mattered. She pushed aside garbage bags and reached for the baby, scooping the tiny bundle up as carefully as she could. The baby was so light, lighter than Maya expected. She could feel how cold the little body was through the thin blanket. The baby was wearing just a diaper, nothing else. No clothes, no proper covering. Maya quickly unzipped her jacket and wrapped it around the baby, holding the child close to her chest to share her warmth. Getting out of the dumpster while holding the baby was harder than getting in. Maya had to move slowly, carefully, making sure she didn't drop the precious bundle or slip on the garbage. When her feet finally touched the ground again, She didn't waste a single second. She ran. Maya ran faster than she'd ever run in her life. Her backpack bounced against her shoulders and her lungs burned from the cold air, but she didn't slow down. The baby was making small whimpering sounds now, not the strong cries from before, and that terrified her. She burst through the back door of the group home, nearly knocking over a chair in the hallway. "Mrs. Rodriguez," she screamed. Her voice came out high and panicked. "Mrs. Rodriguez, help!" The house mother came rushing out of the kitchen, her eyes wide with alarm. She took one look at Maya, covered in garbage and holding a bundle, and her face went pale. "Dear God," Mrs. Rodriguez whispered. "Is that—" "I found her in the dumpster," Maya said, and her voice cracked. "She's so cold. We need to call someone, please." Mrs. Rodriguez moved into action immediately. She grabbed her phone from her pocket and dialed 911, while gently taking the baby from Maya's arms. She unwrapped the jacket to check the baby, and Maya could see her lips moving in what looked like a prayer. "Yes, we need an ambulance right away," Mrs. Rodriguez said into the phone. "We have an infant, looks newborn, found abandoned. She's breathing but very cold." The next few minutes felt like hours. Mrs. Rodriguez got clean towels and wrapped the baby more securely, trying to warm her up. Maya stood there, her whole body shaking, unsure if it was from the cold or from shock or from something else entirely. Other kids started coming downstairs, drawn by the commotion. Mrs. Rodriguez sent them all back to their rooms. The ambulance arrived with sirens blaring. 2 paramedics rushed in with equipment and bags. They worked quickly, checking the baby's temperature and heart rate, asking Mrs. Rodriguez questions. One of them looked at Maya. "You found her?" he asked. Maya nodded, unable to speak. "You saved her life," the paramedic said simply. "Another hour or 2 in this cold and we'd be having a very different conversation." They loaded the baby into the ambulance. Maya watched through the window as it pulled away, lights flashing. She realized she was crying, tears running down her face that she didn't remember starting. Mrs. Rodriguez put an arm around her shoulders. "You did good, sweetheart," she said softly. "You did real good." But Maya couldn't stop thinking about the baby, about how small she was, how helpless, about how someone had thrown her away like she was garbage, about how easily Maya could have walked past that dumpster and never heard the crying. She didn't go to school that day. She couldn't. All she could think about was that tiny baby and whether she was going to be okay. The police arrived at the group home about an hour after the ambulance left. There were 2 of them, a man and a woman, both wearing dark blue uniforms. They sat down with Maya in the small office where Mrs. Rodriguez usually did paperwork. The room smelled like coffee and old books. Detective Lisa Chen was the one who did most of the talking. She had kind eyes and spoke in a gentle voice, but Maya could tell she was taking everything very seriously. The other officer, Detective Walsh, took notes on a small pad of paper. "I know this has been a scary morning," Detective Chen said, "but I need you to tell me everything you remember. Every detail, no matter how small, could be important." Maya told them the whole story, about walking through the alley like she did every morning, about hearing the crying and thinking it was a cat, about climbing into the dumpster and finding the baby. Her voice shook when she described how cold the baby had felt in her arms. "You did the right thing," Detective Walsh said when she finished. "A lot of people might have just kept walking, might have convinced themselves they didn't hear anything or that it wasn't their problem. How could anyone do that?" Maya asked. "How could someone throw away a baby like that?" Detective Chen sighed. "We don't know yet, but we're going to find out. Can you show us exactly where you found her?" They all walked out to the alley together. In the daylight, it looked different than it had that morning. Less scary, but somehow sadder. Maya pointed to the dumpster, and the detectives spent a long time looking around. They took pictures of everything. They found the torn blanket the baby had been wrapped in and carefully put it in a plastic bag. "We'll need to run tests on this," Detective Chen explained. "DNA, fingerprints, anything that might help us figure out who the mother is." Maya watched them work. She kept thinking about the baby, wondering how she was doing. Finally, she couldn't hold the question in anymore. "Is she going to be okay?" she asked. "The baby, I mean. Is she going to live?" Detective Chen put a hand on Maya's shoulder. "The hospital called a few minutes ago. She's stable. They're warming her up and giving her fluids. The doctors say if you hadn't found her when you did, she probably wouldn't have made it. You're a hero, Maya." But Maya didn't feel like a hero. She felt angry, angry at whoever had left that baby in the trash, angry at a world where something like this could happen. And underneath the anger was something else, a feeling she couldn't quite name. It felt like responsibility, like she'd started something that she needed to see through to the end. Over the next few days, Maya couldn't stop thinking about the baby. She learned from Mrs. Rodriguez that the hospital staff had given her a temporary name, Hope. They called her that because she'd been found just in time, because there was hope for her future. Maya asked Mrs. Rodriguez if she could visit Hope at the hospital. At first, Mrs. Rodriguez wasn't sure it was a good idea. "Sweetheart, that baby is going to go into the system," she said carefully. "Just like you. Just like all the kids here. I don't want you to get attached and then have your heart broken when they place her somewhere." "I'm already attached," Maya said quietly. "I was attached the second I picked her up." Mrs. Rodriguez looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, I'll see what I can arrange." The first time Maya visited the hospital, she was nervous. A social worker named Beverly Chen met them at the entrance. She was Detective Chen's sister, which seemed like a strange coincidence, but Beverly explained that they often worked together on cases involving children. "Hope is in the NICU," Beverly said as they walked through the hospital corridors. "That's the neonatal intensive care unit. She's doing well, all things considered, but they want to keep a close eye on her for a while." The NICU was unlike anything Maya had ever seen. There were rows of clear plastic boxes with tiny babies inside, all connected to wires and machines that beeped and hummed. It was overwhelming. But then Beverly led her to a corner where a single baby lay sleeping in a bassinet. "This is Hope," she said softly. Maya approached slowly. The baby looked so different than she had that morning in the alley. She was clean now, wrapped in a white hospital blanket. Her face was peaceful, and her tiny chest rose and fell with each breath. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "Can I touch her?" she whispered. "Of course," Beverly said. "Here, you can hold her hand." Maya reached into the bassinet and gently touched Hope's palm. To her amazement, the tiny fingers curled around her own. It was the smallest, most delicate grip she'd ever felt, but it was strong. It was real. "Hi, Hope," Maya whispered. "I'm Maya. I'm the one who found you. I'm going to make sure you're okay." I promise. She visited every day after that. Sometimes she'd sit there for hours just watching Hope sleep or telling her stories about her day at school. The nurses got used to seeing her. Some of them would smile and wave when she arrived. Meanwhile, the police investigation was moving forward. Detective Chen kept Mrs. Rodriguez updated, and Mrs. Rodriguez shared what she could with Maya. They'd found surveillance footage from a camera at a convenience store near the alley. The video showed a teenage girl, maybe 16 or 17, walking toward the alley around 3 in the morning. She was carrying something wrapped in a blanket. About 20 minutes later, she came back without it. She was crying. "They think she's a runaway," Mrs. Rodriguez told Maya. "They're checking missing persons reports from the surrounding areas." Maya felt a complicated mix of emotions when she heard that. Part of her was still angry at the mother who had abandoned Hope, but another part of her felt sad. If the mother was just a teenager herself, maybe a runaway, maybe she was desperate, maybe she was scared and alone and didn't know what else to do. "What's going to happen to her?" Maya asked. "The mother, I mean. Will she go to jail?" "I don't know, honey," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "That's not really for us to decide. It took the police 2 weeks to find her. Her name was Jessica, and she was 17 years old. She'd run away from home 8 months earlier after a fight with her stepfather. She'd been living on the streets, in shelters, anywhere she could find. When she realized she was pregnant, she hid it. She was terrified. She had no money, no family to turn to, no idea what to do. When she went into labor alone in an abandoned building, she panicked. After the baby was born, she wrapped her in the only blanket she had and left her in the dumpster. She told herself someone would find the baby, someone who could take care of her properly. Then she'd run away and tried to forget it ever happened. But she couldn't forget. The guilt ate at her. When she saw the news reports about the baby being found, about Maya saving her, she felt relieved and devastated at the same time. When the police finally tracked her down, she confessed immediately. Detective Chen told Maya all of this during one of her hospital visits. Maya listened quietly, her hand still holding Hope's tiny fingers. "What's going to happen to Jessica?" Maya asked again. "She's getting help," Detective Chen said. "Medical care, counseling, support. She's a minor too, and she was in crisis. The focus right now is on making sure she's safe and healthy, both physically and mentally. And Hope? Detective Chen's expression grew more serious. Hope is going into foster care. Beverly is working on finding the right placement for her. It's not easy to place newborns, believe it or not. A lot of people want to adopt babies, but the foster-to-adopt process is complicated. Can I still visit her? Maya asked, and she heard the desperation in her own voice. We'll see what we can work out, Detective Chen said. But Maya, you need to prepare yourself. Hope is going to be placed with a family. She's going to move on with her life. You saved her, and that's incredible. But you can't stay in her life forever. Those words hit Maya harder than she expected. She looked down at Hope's sleeping face and felt something break inside her chest. She'd known this was coming. Of course she had. But knowing something and accepting it are two very different things. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Hope and Jessica and herself. 3 girls, all caught in situations they didn't ask for, all trying to survive in a world that seemed designed to make them fail. She thought about her own mother, who had died when Maya was 7. Cancer. It had been fast and brutal. And one day Maya had a parent, and the next day she didn't. She'd been in the system ever since. 5 different placements, 4 different schools, and finally St. Catherine's group home, where she'd been for 3 years. Maya knew what it was like to be unwanted, to feel like nobody really cared whether you existed or not, to watch other kids get adopted while you aged out of the cute phase and became just another statistic. Just another kid in the system that everyone felt sorry for, but nobody wanted to actually help. She didn't want that for Hope. She couldn't bear the thought of Hope growing up the way she had, feeling like she didn't belong anywhere, like she was just temporary in everyone's life. The next morning, Maya made a decision. She asked Mrs. Rodriguez if she could attend the court hearings about Hope's placement. At first, Mrs. Rodriguez said it wasn't possible. Maya was a minor and she wasn't family. But Maya insisted. She wrote letters to Beverly Chen, to Detective Chen, to anyone who would listen. She explained that she had saved Hope's life and that she deserved to have a say in what happened to her. Beverly Chen was moved by Maya's persistence. She pulled some strings and got Maya permission to attend as an observer. The first hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. The court hearing was held in a small room that didn't look anything like the courtrooms Maya had seen on TV. It was plain and simple, with a long table where the lawyers and social workers sat, and a few rows of chairs for observers. Maya sat in the back with Mrs. Rodriguez, her palms sweating. The judge was a woman in her 60s with gray hair pulled back in a bun. She listened as Beverly Chen explained Hope's situation. The baby was healthy now, thriving in her foster placement with a temporary family. But they needed to find a permanent home for her. The birth mother, Jessica, had signed papers giving up her parental rights. She wanted Hope to have a better life than she could provide. Maya listened to all of this, her heart aching. When the judge asked if anyone else wanted to speak, Maya's hand shot up before she could stop herself. Yes, the judge said, looking at her with curiosity. Maya stood up. Her legs felt like jelly, but she forced herself to walk to the front of the room. Mrs. Rodriguez gave her an encouraging nod. My name is Maya Torres, she said, and her voice came out stronger than she expected. I'm the one who found Hope. I pulled her out of that dumpster. The room got very quiet. Everyone was looking at her now. I know I'm just 15, Maya continued. I know I'm nobody important. I live in a group home because I don't have parents either. But I visit Hope every single day. I hold her and talk to her and make sure she knows someone cares about her. And I just want to say that whoever adopts her needs to be someone special. Someone who's going to love her and never make her feel like she was thrown away. Because she wasn't thrown away, she was saved. Maya's voice cracked on the last word and she realized she was crying. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. She walked back to her seat, her face burning with embarrassment. But when she sat down, Mrs. Rodriguez squeezed her hand and whispered, That was beautiful. The hearing continued, but Maya barely heard the rest of it. Her mind was spinning. She felt stupid for speaking up. What did she think was going to happen? That the judge would magically let her adopt Hope? She was a kid herself. She had nothing to offer. But as it turned out, someone else was listening. Across town, a woman named Eleanor Walsh sat in her living room, watching the evening news. She was 58 years old. recently retired from 30 years of teaching. Her husband, Robert, had passed away 6 months earlier, after a long battle with heart disease. Since his death, Eleanor had felt lost. The house was too big, too quiet. She filled her days with reading and gardening, but nothing felt meaningful anymore. The news anchor was talking about a heartwarming story. A local teenager saved a baby's life last month, the reporter said. Tonight we have an update on baby Hope and the remarkable young woman who refused to walk away. Eleanor turned up the volume. The screen showed footage of Maya speaking at the courthouse. The camera had captured everything. Maya's tear-streaked face, her passionate words, her obvious love for a baby she had no legal connection to. Something stirred in Eleanor's chest. It was a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. Purpose. Hope. The sense that maybe her life wasn't over just because Robert was gone. She watched the entire segment twice, then grabbed her phone and Googled the phone number for Child Protective Services. It was late, almost 9 at night, so she got a voicemail, but Eleanor left a message anyway. "My name is Eleanor Walsh," she said. "I just saw the story about baby Hope on the news. I'm calling because I want to inquire about becoming a foster parent. Specifically, I'd like to be considered for Hope's placement. Please call me back." She left her number and hung up, then sat there in the quiet house wondering if she'd just done something brave or something foolish. The next morning, Beverly Chen called her back. They talked for over an hour. Eleanor explained her background, her teaching career, her financial stability, her recent loss. Beverly asked hundreds of questions, some of them difficult and personal. But Eleanor answered them all honestly. "I need to be upfront with you," Beverly finally said. "We have several families already interested in Hope. She's a newborn, which makes her a very desirable placement. The process is competitive." "I understand," Eleanor said, "but I want you to know that this isn't just about wanting a baby. I saw that young woman on the news, Maya. I saw how much she cares about Hope. If I'm chosen, I would want Maya to remain part of Hope's life. Their bond shouldn't be broken." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "That's an unusual request," Beverly said slowly. "Most adoptive parents want a clean break from the child's past." "Hope's past saved her life," Eleanor said firmly. "Why would anyone want to erase that?" After that conversation, things moved quickly. Eleanor filled out mountains of paperwork. She went through background checks, home inspections, and interviews. She took classes on infant care, even though she'd spent decades working with children. She opened her home to social workers who examined everything from her kitchen cabinets to her smoke detectors. The process was exhausting and invasive, but Eleanor never complained. Every time she felt overwhelmed, she thought about Maya's face on that news broadcast, about the passion in her voice when she said Hope deserved someone special. Eleanor wanted to be that someone. 6 weeks after her first phone call, Beverly Chen called her with news. "The committee has reviewed your application," she said. "You've been approved as a foster parent, and Eleanor, they'd like you to meet Hope." Eleanor's hands shook as she got ready to go to the hospital. She'd been nervous before, teaching her first class, getting married, all of life's big moments. But this was different. This felt like standing on the edge of something that would change everything. When she arrived at the NICU, Beverly was waiting for her. But she wasn't alone. Standing next to her was a teenage girl with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, and eyes that held more wisdom than any 15-year-old should have. "Eleanor," Beverly said, "I'd like you to meet Maya." Maya looked at Eleanor with a mixture of hope and suspicion. "You're the one who wants to adopt Hope?" "I am," Eleanor said, "and I've been hoping to meet you. I saw you on the news. What you said at the courthouse, it really touched me." "A lot of people say nice things," Maya said, and there was an edge to her voice. "But Hope needs more than nice words. She needs someone who's really going to be there for her." "You're absolutely right," Eleanor said. She didn't get defensive or offended. She understood where Maya was coming from. "I can't prove that I'll be that person. Not with words. But I'm hoping you'll give me a chance to show you." Maya studied her for a long moment. Eleanor met her gaze steadily, not looking away. "Okay," Maya finally said. "Let's go see Hope." They walked to the NICU together, the three of them. When they reached Hope's bassinet, Eleanor felt her breath catch. The baby was awake, her tiny eyes looking around at the world. She was perfect. "Can I hold her?" Eleanor asked softly. Beverly nodded and carefully lifted Hope from the bassinet. She placed the baby in Eleanor's arms, and Eleanor felt tears spring to her eyes. Hope was so light, so fragile, so precious. The baby looked up at her with unfocused eyes, and Eleanor felt something click into place in her heart. "Hello, Hope," she whispered. "I'm Eleanor. I'm hoping to be your mama." She looked up and saw Maya watching them. The girl's expression was complicated, a mixture of emotions that Eleanor couldn't quite read. But there was something in her eyes that looked like relief. "She likes you," Maya said quietly. "I hope so," Eleanor said. "And Maya, I meant what I told Beverly. If I'm lucky enough to become Hope's mother, I want you to stay in her life. You saved her. That makes you part of her story forever." Maya's eyes widened. "Really?" "Really," Eleanor confirmed. "In fact, I was hoping you might help me. I haven't taken care of a baby in a very long time. I could use someone to show me the ropes, someone who knows Hope and cares about her." For the first time since Eleanor had met her, Maya smiled. It was a small smile, tentative and unsure, but it was genuine. "I visit her every day after school," Maya said. "I could come to your house instead, if that's okay." "That would be wonderful," Eleanor said. They spent the next hour in the NICU together. Eleanor held Hope while Maya told her everything about the baby's routine, her feeding schedule, the songs she liked, the way she hated having her diaper changed. Eleanor listened carefully to every word, asking questions, taking mental notes. As they were leaving, Beverly pulled Eleanor aside. "I have to tell you something," Beverly said quietly. "Your willingness to include Maya in this process, it really impressed the committee. A lot of foster parents see children like Maya as a complication, someone who might disrupt their perfect new family, but you see her as an asset. That's rare." "Maya isn't a complication," Eleanor said. "She's extraordinary. Anyone who can't see that is blind." Beverly smiled. "There's something else. The final home study is in 2 weeks. If everything goes well, Hope could be placed with you by the end of the month. But Eleanor, I need to ask you something. Have you thought about the long-term picture here?" "What do you mean?" "Maya is 15, Beverly said. She'll age out of the system in 3 years. Most kids in her situation end up on their own, struggling. No support system, no family. It's not fair, but it's reality. By bringing her into Hope's life, you're forming a connection. But what happens when Maya turns 18 and the state stops providing for her?" Eleanor was quiet for a moment, thinking. She hadn't considered this, but now that Beverly mentioned it, the answer seemed obvious. "Then I guess I'll need to make sure she has somewhere to go," Eleanor said simply. The final home study went perfectly. Eleanor's house was approved, her references were glowing, and her financial situation was stable. 3 weeks after meeting Hope for the first time, Eleanor brought her home. Maya was there for that moment too. She'd been invited, and she wouldn't have missed it for anything. Eleanor's house was in a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and well-kept lawns. It was the kind of place Maya had only seen in movies. A real house with a yard and a porch swing and flowers planted in neat rows. Inside, everything was clean and organized, but it didn't feel cold or sterile. There were family photos on the walls, comfortable furniture, and books everywhere. Eleanor had set up a nursery in what used to be her sewing room. The walls were painted a soft yellow, and there was a white crib with a mobile hanging above it. Maya stood in the doorway, taking it all in. "What do you think?" Eleanor asked, holding Hope in her arms. "It's perfect," Maya said, and she meant it. But as the weeks went by, Maya started to notice something. Every time she visited, which was almost every day, Eleanor would ask her opinion on things. What did Maya think Hope liked better? This bottle or that one? Did the nursery seem too cold at night? Was Eleanor holding Hope the right way? At first, Maya thought Eleanor was just being polite. But then she realized something else was happening. Eleanor genuinely valued her input. She saw Maya as an expert on Hope, not just some kid who happened to find her. One evening, about a month after Hope came home, Eleanor asked Maya to stay for dinner. It wasn't the first time, but usually, Maya had to get back to the group home by 7. This time, Eleanor had already cleared it with Mrs. Rodriguez. They ate spaghetti at the kitchen table while Hope slept in a bassinet nearby. The conversation was easy, comfortable. Eleanor asked about Maya's day at school and actually listened to the answer. She didn't just nod and say that's nice like most adults did. She asked follow-up questions. She cared. "Maya," Eleanor said as they were clearing the dishes, "I've been thinking about something and I want to run it by you." Maya looked up, suddenly nervous. "Okay. Hope needs stability," Eleanor began. "She needs routine and consistency. And honestly, so do I. I've been living alone for 6 months and it's been hard. This house feels too big for just me and a baby. Maya wasn't sure where this was going, but her heart was starting to beat faster. The thing is, Eleanor continued, you're here almost every day anyway. You help with Hope, you do your homework at the kitchen table, you've even started keeping some of your things in the guest room. And I realized something. This feels right. Having you here feels like what this house has been missing. She paused, seeming to gather her courage. Maya, I've spoken with Beverly Chen about the possibility of becoming your foster parent too, if you're interested, that is. The room went silent except for the soft sound of Hope's breathing. Maya stared at Eleanor, unable to process what she'd just heard. You want to foster me? Maya finally said. Why would you want to do that? I'm 15. Nobody wants to foster teenagers. I do, Eleanor said simply. You're smart, responsible, caring, and brave. You saved a baby's life when most people would have just walked away. Why wouldn't I want you in my family? Maya felt tears burning in her eyes. I'm hard to live with. All my caseworkers say so. I have trust issues and I don't like following rules, and I keep all my stuff in a backpack because I'm always waiting to get sent back. Then maybe it's time to unpack that backpack, Eleanor said gently. Maya, I'm not promising this will be easy. Foster relationships take work, and we're both going to have to learn how to live together. But I'm willing to try if you are. Maya wanted to say yes. Every part of her wanted to say yes. But fear held her back. She'd been disappointed before. She'd been in placements that seemed great at first, only to have them fall apart. She'd learned not to hope for too much. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course, Eleanor said. Take all the time you need. Maya did think about it. She thought about it for 3 days straight. She talked to Mrs. Rodriguez, who encouraged her to go for it. She talked to Beverly Chen, who explained that Eleanor had already completed most of the paperwork and home study for fostering a teen. But the person who finally convinced her was, oddly enough, Hope. Maya was holding the baby one afternoon, rocking her gently when Hope grabbed onto her finger with that impossibly tiny grip. Maya looked down at that perfect little face and realized something. Hope didn't know about fear or disappointment or broken promises. She just knew that when she cried, someone came. When she was hungry, someone fed her. When she needed comfort, someone held her. Hope trusted completely because she had no reason not to. And maybe, Maya thought, it was time she tried to trust like that again. The next day, Maya told Eleanor yes. The transition wasn't as smooth as Maya had hoped. The paperwork took weeks to process. Maya had to meet with caseworkers and answer questions about why she wanted this placement. Some of them seemed skeptical. A few implied that Maya was just using Eleanor to get a better living situation. That hurt more than Maya wanted to admit. But Eleanor stood by her through all of it. She attended every meeting, advocated for Maya at every turn, and never once acted like the process was too much trouble. Finally, 2 months after Eleanor first made the offer, Maya moved in officially. She arrived with the same backpack she'd been carrying for 8 years, plus 2 garbage bags full of clothes. That was everything she owned in the world. Eleanor helped her carry everything upstairs to what would be her room. It was across the hall from the nursery, bigger than any room Maya had ever had. There was a real bed with a colorful quilt, a desk by the window, and a bookshelf waiting to be filled. I thought you could decorate it however you want, Eleanor said. We can go shopping this weekend, pick out some things to make it feel like yours. Maya nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She put her backpack down on the bed, then looked at the garbage bags. For 8 years, she'd lived out of that backpack. Never unpacking completely, never putting down roots. You okay? Eleanor asked softly. I don't know how to do this, Maya admitted. I don't know how to be part of a family. Eleanor sat down on the bed next to her. Honey, I don't either. Not this kind of family anyway. It was just me and Robert for 35 years. We never had kids. I have no idea what I'm doing with a baby and a teenager, but we'll figure it out together. That night, after Hope was asleep and Eleanor had gone to bed, Maya sat in her new room. She looked at her backpack, still packed and ready to go. Then she looked around at the room, with its empty dresser, drawers, and closet. Slowly, Maya unzipped the backpack. She took out her clothes and put them in the dresser. She hung her jacket in the closet. She put her toothbrush in the bathroom across the hall. When the backpack was empty, she put it on the top shelf of the closet instead of keeping it under the bed like she always had before. It felt terrifying and liberating at the same time. The first few weeks were an adjustment for everyone. Maya was used to the chaos of the group home, where there was always noise and activity. Eleanor's house was quiet, sometimes too quiet. Maya had to learn a whole new routine. Dinner at 6, homework before TV, chores on Saturday morning. Eleanor had to adjust too. She was used to living alone, doing things her way on her schedule. Now there was a teenager who stayed up late and left dishes in the sink and played music too loud sometimes. They had their first real fight about a month in. Maya had stayed out past curfew without calling, and Eleanor was furious. Not just angry, but scared. When Maya finally got home, Eleanor was waiting in the living room. "Where were you?" Eleanor demanded. "I was worried sick. I almost called the police. I was at a friend's house," Maya said defensively. "I lost track of time. You have a phone. You could have called." "I'm not used to having to check in with anyone," Maya snapped. "At the group home, nobody cared where I was as long as I showed up by lights out." "Well, this isn't the group home," Eleanor said, her voice shaking. "And I do care. When you're part of a family, people worry about you. People want to know you're safe." Maya felt her defenses crumbling. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I'm not trying to be difficult. I just forget sometimes that anyone cares." Eleanor's expression softened. She crossed the room and pulled Maya into a hug. Maya tensed at first, then relaxed into it. "I care," Eleanor said. "More than you know. And that's why we need to have rules and expectations, not to control you, but to keep you safe." After that night, things got easier. Maya started checking in when she was going to be late. Eleanor started giving Maya more independence, trusting her to make good decisions. They developed a rhythm, an understanding of how to live together. And through it all, hope was the center that held them together. Taking care of her gave them a common purpose. When Maya was stressed about school, she'd hold Hope and feel calmer. When Eleanor felt overwhelmed, she'd watch Maya singing to Hope and remember why she'd opened her home. 6 months after Maya moved in, she came home from school to find Eleanor sitting at the kitchen table with a serious expression. "We need to talk," Eleanor said. Maya's stomach dropped. "Here it comes," she thought. "She's going to send me back. I knew this was too good to last." "Okay," Maya said, bracing herself. Eleanor took a deep breath. "I've been talking to Beverly Chen about making this permanent." Maya's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "I mean adoption," Eleanor said. "For both you and Hope, I want to adopt both of you. Make you sisters legally. Make us a family for real." Maya couldn't breathe. "You want to adopt me?" "Yes," Eleanor said firmly. "If you'll have me as your mom." This time Maya didn't need to think about it. She didn't need time to process. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face, and said the word she'd been afraid to hope for. Yes. The adoption process took another year. There were more home studies, more interviews, more paperwork than Maya thought humanly possible. But this time it felt different. This time Maya wasn't just waiting to see if someone would choose her. She'd already been chosen. During that year, life continued. Maya turned 16 and got her learner's permit. Eleanor taught her to drive in the empty parking lot of a church, both of them laughing when Maya accidentally hit the curb. Hope started crawling, then pulling herself up on furniture, taking her first wobbly steps while Maya and Eleanor cheered. They became a family in the small moments: Saturday morning pancakes, bedtime stories for Hope, Maya helping Eleanor figure out her new phone, Eleanor attending every single one of Maya's parent-teacher conferences, sitting in the front row, asking questions, being present. Maya started doing better in school, not because Eleanor pressured her, but because for the first time in her life, she had a reason to care about her future. She joined the debate team and discovered she had a talent for public speaking. Her grades improved from C's to B's, then from B's to A's, but not everything was perfect. Maya still had nightmares sometimes, waking up in a panic, thinking she was back at the group home. She still had moments where she waited for everything to fall apart. Old habits died hard. One night, about 10 months into the adoption process, Maya had the worst nightmare yet. She dreamed that Eleanor had changed her mind, that Beverly Chen was coming to take her back to St. Catherine's. She woke up gasping, her heart racing. Without thinking, she grabbed her old backpack from the closet and started packing, just the essentials like she used to do. She was halfway through when Eleanor appeared in the doorway. "Maya, what are you doing?" Maya looked up, tears streaming down her face. "Getting ready. For when you send me back." Eleanor's face crumpled. She crossed the room and gently took the backpack from Maya's hands, setting it aside. Then she sat down on the bed and pulled Maya close. "I'm not sending you back," Eleanor said firmly. "Do you hear me? I'm not sending you back. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You're my daughter now, and daughters don't get returned. But what if I mess up?" Maya whispered. "What if I do something wrong and you change your mind?" "Maya, look at me," Eleanor said. Maya met her eyes. "Every parent and every kid messes up sometimes. That's part of being a family. But families don't give up on each other. We work through it, together. You promise?" "I promise," Eleanor said. "Cross my heart. You're stuck with me now." Maya laughed through her tears. Eleanor hugged her tight, and they sat there together until Maya's breathing slowed and her heart stopped racing. After that night, Maya stopped packing the backpack. She stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. She started to believe, really believe, that this was forever. The adoption hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in March. The courthouse was the same one where Maya had spoken up for Hope almost 2 years earlier. But this time the room was packed. Mrs. Rodriguez came, bringing several kids from the group home. Beverly Chen was there, along with Detective Lisa Chen and her partner. Even some of Maya's teachers showed up. The judge was the same woman who had presided over Hope's initial custody hearing. She smiled when she saw Maya. "I remember you," she said. "You stood up in my courtroom and demanded that this baby get someone special. Looks like you both found that." The proceedings were formal but warm. The judge asked Eleanor and Maya questions. She asked Hope's temporary guardian to testify about the bond between the sisters. She reviewed all the documents and reports. Finally, she picked up her gavel. "It is the finding of this court that adoption is in the best interest of both minors. Eleanor Walsh, you are hereby granted full legal adoption of Hope Marie Walsh and Maya Christine Walsh. Congratulations to your family." The gavel came down, and the courtroom erupted in applause. Maya felt Eleanor's arms around her, felt Hope squirming between them, and for the first time in 8 years, she felt completely, utterly safe. After the hearing, there was a small celebration at Eleanor's house. Well, their house now. Maya's house. She still wasn't used to thinking of it that way, but she was learning. Mrs. Rodriguez pulled Maya aside at one point. "I'm proud of you," she said. "You've come so far from that scared little girl who arrived at my door 8 years ago. Thank you for everything," Maya said. "For taking care of me, for letting me visit Hope, for supporting this adoption." "You did the hard part," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "You chose to hope. That takes more courage than most people realize." As the party wound down and guests started leaving, Maya found herself standing in the nursery, watching Hope sleep. Eleanor came up behind her. "Hard to believe it's been almost 2 years since you found her," Eleanor said softly. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday," Maya said. "Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago." "What were you thinking about?" "Just now, standing here?" Maya was quiet for a moment. "I was thinking about how different my life could have been. If I'd walked a different route that morning. If I'd been running late. If I'd convinced myself I didn't hear anything. Hope wouldn't be here. You and I never would have met. Everything would be different. But you didn't walk a different route," Eleanor said. "You heard her crying and you climbed into a dumpster to save her. That took incredible bravery." "I don't know if it was bravery," Maya said. "I just knew I couldn't leave her there. I couldn't walk away." "That's exactly what bravery is," Eleanor said. "Doing what's right even when it's hard, even when it's scary." Maya looked at Eleanor, this woman who had become her mother. "You did the same thing. You could have just adopted Hope. You didn't have to take me too. That would have been easier." "Easier doesn't mean better," Eleanor said. She put her arm around Maya's shoulders. "Besides, I didn't save you. We saved each other. You gave me a purpose when I thought my life was over. You gave me a family when I was lonely. That's not one-sided. That's what families do." Over the next few years, life continued to unfold in ways Maya never could have imagined. She graduated high school with honors and was accepted to several universities, but what she was most proud of was the work she started doing in her community. Maya began volunteering with organizations that helped foster youth. She spoke at schools about her experience, about the importance of speaking up when you see something wrong. She advocated for safe haven laws, which allow parents to surrender babies at hospitals or fire stations without fear of prosecution. She told Hope's story over and over, about the baby in the dumpster. about the teenager who didn't walk away, about the woman who opened her home to both of them. And every time she told it, she saw it impact someone new. Sometimes it was another foster kid who needed to hear that happy endings were possible. Sometimes it was a prospective foster parent who needed encouragement. Sometimes it was just a random person who needed to be reminded that one choice can change everything. Hope grew up knowing her story. Eleanor and Maya never hid it from her. They told her age-appropriate versions as she got older, always emphasizing the important parts. That her birth mother had been young and scared but had wanted her to be safe. That Maya had heard her crying and refused to ignore it. That Eleanor had chosen to love them both. Hope didn't grow up with shame about her beginning. She grew up with pride. Pride in having a sister who was a hero. Pride in having a mother who believed in second chances. Pride in being part of a family that was built on love rather than biology. On Hope's 5th birthday, they did something special. They went back to the alley where Maya had found her. It looked different now. The city had cleaned it up, installed better lighting, even put in a community garden nearby. But the dumpster was still there. "This is where Maya found you," Eleanor explained, holding Hope's hand. Hope looked at the dumpster, then up at Maya. "You climbed in there." "I did," Maya said. "It was gross and scary, but you were in there crying and I couldn't just leave you." "Thank you for not leaving me," Hope said seriously. Maya knelt down to Hope's level. "I will never leave you. You're my sister. That's forever." "Forever and ever?" Hope asked. "Forever and ever," Maya confirmed. They took a picture there, the three of them in front of that alley. Eleanor posted it on social media with a simple caption. "5 years ago, my daughters saved each other. Best decision I ever made was joining their story." The post went viral. News outlets picked it up again. Maya was invited to speak at a conference about child welfare. She was nervous, but Eleanor and Hope came with her for support. Standing on that stage, looking out at hundreds of people, Maya told her story one more time. But this time she ended it differently. "People always focus on the moment I found Hope," she said. And yes, that was important. But the real miracle wasn't the rescue. It was everything that came after. It was Eleanor choosing to see me as worthy of love. It was Hope teaching me what family really means. It was all of us learning that your worst day doesn't have to define your whole life. She paused, looking out at the audience. I spent 8 years believing I was unwanted, that I was just another kid in the system that nobody really cared about. And then I found a baby in a dumpster. And somehow that led me to a mother and a sister and a home. Life is strange like that. The thing you think is a tragedy can turn into the biggest blessing. The audience gave her a standing ovation, but Maya wasn't thinking about them. She was looking at the front row, where Eleanor was holding Hope on her lap. Both of them were crying happy tears. After the conference, they went out for ice cream. It was a family tradition now, celebrating big moments with dessert. Hope got chocolate with sprinkles. Maya got strawberry. Eleanor got vanilla because, as she said, she was boring and predictable and she liked it that way. "I'm proud of you," Eleanor said to Maya. "The way you spoke today, the lives you're going to impact with that story. Your mom would be so proud too."